Hey folks, thanks for stopping by my channel. Today we're going to talk about sound deadening. So in our series on building an Overlander from a Chevy Suburban, why would you start with sound deadening? And I've been asked that already. Like, it's a hassle. Why would you bother with doing that and the cost of doing that? So a couple reasons. Primarily for us, it's about communication. So my wife, who normally sits in this passenger side seat, has lost most of her hearing in her left ear. She also has a quiet speaking voice, so she struggles to both to hear and to be heard. So if I can even just drop the interior volume level of this thing while we're at speed, like, it'll just help us communicate better. Second is just insulation. You've got a vehicle you're sleeping in. The quicker you can heat it up or cool it down, the better. And then the third, kind of last benefit is just the car stereo is supposed to sound better. Like, you're putting sound deadening in the doors behind the speakers. You know, it helps make a better enclosure out of your door panel for the speaker. And we enjoy music, and this truck's actually got a pretty nice stereo in it. So if I can improve the sound quality, so much the better. So the second question is, what product did you use to sound deaden? You may be familiar with brands like Dynamat or Killmat, and there's a lot of layers that you can put down, and it's kind of like when you have conversations with people about the benefits of vinyl versus CD. Like, there's engineering and physics, but there's also the experience and opinion and just kind of vibe. What I chose was this 3-layer product that I found on Amazon after a bunch of research. So it's got the 3 layers. Start with the butyl tape on the back. That's the sticky part. That's the heavy part. It's what adds mass to the panel to keep it from resonating. The middle layer is the foil. It's supposed to reflect heat and reflect sound from coming in. And then the third layer is the closed cell foam on the top of it. So they all go down in one fell swoop. And that's what I liked about it. I didn't want to have to put down a layer of this and then a layer of that. It's pretty, you'll see in a second when we start going through some of the time-lapse videos. Like, it's a pretty laborious project to put this stuff down. So I only wanted to do it once. There's also cost. So I easily found products that were going to cost like $1,000 to do the whole truck. And I didn't want to spend that much. So I had to keep it more in like the hundreds of dollar range, and not the thousands of dollar range. So again, this came off Amazon. I will link to it in the comments below. All right, let's talk about the how. As you can see, it's simple but tedious. You're basically wallpapering the inside of a truck. You expose the sheet metal by removing the trim and carpet. You then clean up the sheet metal, sweep it down, wipe it down. Then you measure your sound deadening material to fit a space. You want to put in as big pieces as you can at once. I use just as regular scissors and a utility knife to cut the material. Once you've got your piece ready, you peel the backing off and you press it into place, and then you use the roller to really stick it down well. Then you got to come back and cut out any necessary holes, like where your trim mounting clips have to go, etc. In order to keep the truck as drivable as I could, I worked in phases. I did the rear cargo area first, and then each door one by one, and then the front floors all at once. And basically, I just found YouTube videos that showed how everything came apart. It's pretty easy on these old Chevys, although I did end up buying some special sockets for the front seats. All right, let's talk about the costs. So the material I purchased came in boxes that each cover 20 square feet. Each box was $70, and I used a total of 7 boxes, or 140 square feet. Call it $500. That's just the money. Time was definitely another cost. This was a time-consuming project. Overall, it was about 5 months beginning to finish. And but some of that's because I did a bunch of while I'm at it projects, and then we had some personal life events that happened. So just, like every project. All right. So after all that work, what are the results? So I wanted to be scientific about this. I downloaded a decibel meter app for our smartphone. We went for a drive before I started any of this work and tried to watch the meter to see. It's kind of hard because it jumps around a lot. You got tire noise, wind noise, conversation sounds, all kind of affect the decibel level. The other thing is decibels are logarithmic, not linear. And you can Google that if you want to know more about it. Basically, what it means is if you go from 0 decibels of absolute silence to 20 decibels, that's not a 20 times jump, that's a 100 times jump. So even if you can drop a decibel level, if you drop it from, 90 to 85, that's a significant drop. So what we found is before I did the sound deadening, As you got up above speeds of like 55 miles an hour or so, the decibel levels seemed to kind of match the speed. So, if you were going 75 down the highway, the decibel, again, it's jumping around, but it was kind of centering around 75 decibels. And then after I did the work, I went back out, and I would say the meter was reading from 55 to 85. It was fairly constant, and it was in the low 70s range. So I feel like we went from sort of the upper 70s to the lower 70s. Now there's, that's the physics side of it. There's also just like the experiential side of it. So I noticed a lot less whine from the drivetrain, and tire noise is reduced. So we definitely found it much easier to converse while we're going down the road. Like for our test drive after putting the sound deadening in, my wife even forgot her hearing aid. So again, that's her left ear. So I would be sitting to her left. And even with the stereo playing, we were able to have a comfortable conversation just going down the road. So I think it was worth it. Again, it was a fair amount of work. Expense wasn't too bad, but I'm glad to have that in place now. And then now we'll start the actual building out of cabinets and making it look more like a camper versus just an empty shell of a truck. So sound deadening a Suburban is the basis for an Overland build. Good step for us. Glad to have it done. But hope that helps, and we'll talk to you later.